Part 1 of the GameLog Dominator video series showed you where to find the Dominator and explained the different filters. So go back and watch that one if you haven't already. All I'm going to do here in Part 2 is another simple query to show both Drew Brees and Eli Manning's recent game logs leading up to their Week 8 matchup. So I want 2015, weeks 1 through 7. I'm going to pick Drew Brees out of the player filter first. Make sure I'm looking at passing stats and click Dominate. Here's Brees through 7 weeks. And if you remember, heading into last season, the narrative was that the Saints' offseason moves were going to make them more run-heavy, and Brees' play had been in decline. There was some mass confirmation bias when Brees came out of the gates a bit slow after the Saints got blown out, and Brees had only 1 touchdown in Week 1, and then he had a terrible game here against Tampa in Week 2. But then he started turning it around with huge games against Dallas and Philly. Over 300 and a touchdown was a little disappointing against Atlanta, but it was an easy win, and Brees completed 77% of his passes. He was clearly still playing well. And then we rounded out with the previous week's game against the Colts, where it looks like Brees struggled in what should have been a nice spot if we were just looking at his yardage and touchdowns. But when we see this drop in yards per attempt, and the fact the Saints still scored 27 points in the game, context becomes important. All the touchdowns went to the Saints running backs that week. Brees still piloted the offense well and had been for the past month. He just didn't need to do much and was on the wrong side of touchdown variance, which was somewhat similar to what happened to him the previous week against Atlanta. Manning's game logs showed us a rough start to the season, followed by 3 consecutive low QB1 performances, a nuclear game in Week 5, and then 2 huge letdowns in Week 6 and 7. If we were only looking at the game logs, Manning's recent history was a bit of a mixed bag, but I want you to go back to the article now and find out how these game logs help me identify both Manning and Brees as phenomenal plays in DFS tournaments in Week 8.